Okay. You ready? So let's continue. We've been talking about the bird, right? The mother bird. We have two possibilities. Either the bird stays with the young, or shush the bird away. The bird goes into exile and leaves the young and the chicks. And we say that depends. When we in this world do our mitzvahs and with kavana and l'shem shemayim, so therefore the bird, which is the Shechina, which is Malchus the Shechina, stays with the young children of Israel and protects us and hovers over us. When we don't do the mitzvahs, or perhaps we do them without the right kavana, or we do them without the quality of simcha, perhaps we should say, so then the mother goes away and leaves us. So now we're going to have another aspect of this bird. And the Tikunim say, Va'al hai tzipor, kavamizu v'bonin v'hagada debas. And on this bird, so the Chachamim, Rames, on the Agadita in Baba Basra, Baba Bachana. Baba Bachana, we know there are, I know maybe 14, 15 Agaditas at the beginning of the Perek HaSochet HaSfina, Mochet HaSfina, I'm sorry, it sells the boat of Rabbi Bachana. So one of them, I think it's number 10, starts off, Rabbi Bachana Chavi Azul Sfinte, he was traveling on the boat, V'chazalahi Tzipra, the Yama, and he saw this bird of the sea, Mate ad Kasaloi, which came up to Kasaloi, the ankles of the lower part of the leg. Okay. So that's all that the Tikunei HaZohar quotes at this point from the Agadita, from the Gemara. So I'm going to learn tonight, concentrate on the parish of Be'er, the Chai Va'oi. And there's another place in the Zohar which discusses this, and that talks about this Agadita of the 4 people who went into Pardes. It's a very important midrash. But here we're not really going to be concerned with that. That's in another aspect, that's in another Zohar. And so we're going to talk a little bit now about this. So it says that here we're talking about what we learned before, people who makayim the mitzvahs and do the mitzvahs with kavana. So through their mitzvahs, we see that the mother rests on the young. And we're going to learn it to be a difficult journey on the boat a little bit tonight, because it's concerned with a lot of the technical aspect of the Kabbalah. So the mother here will be we know from the Partsufim, and we just go back again, that we have 5 principal Partsufim who are family members, let's say, in the higher world of Atzilus. Erech Ampim, and then we have Abba, the father, Ima, the mother, and then we have Ze Ampim, the young man, and Nukba. And we have higher ones and lower ones. And the mother who hovers over the young, when we do the mitzvahs, she's going to be referring to the Ima, the higher mother. Okay. So that's going to be the subject, principally, of how we're going to learn this Agadita of Rabbi Bachana. But before we do that, we have an interesting problem. I find it an interesting problem, and of course, the commentators have discuss this because it's very fundamental. Rabbi Baba Chana was an Amora in the Gemara. That's to say, he came after the generation of the Tanas, and he was a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. And it may be that Rabbi Yochanan, when he was a younger man, may have, although he was also an Amora in Eretz Yisrael after the great generation of the Tanas and after Rav and Shmuel. Rav goes to Babel, and he was the great leader of the Amoraim in Eretz Yisrael, the main teacher of the Babli Yerushalmi. But it's possible that he knew Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, because we see sometimes that we see in the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Shimon. But certainly Rabbi Baba Chana did not know Rabbi Shimon, and was born after him. So how can the Zohar, the Tikunei HaZohar, which we see right at the beginning, was written, or at least taught over by Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and the Arnovi and all the others, how comes they're bringing the Agadah of Rabbi Baba Chana, who was at least 2 generations later? So a lot of critics, intellectuals and academics who study the Torah use this as one of the main proofs that the Zohar is not written, or certainly not all written by Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, because here they're bringing someone who was a couple of generations later. On the other hand, the purists say every word comes from Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, so how are we going to explain this? So we have here 2 explanations. The first one I'm not understand so well is that here, I'm learning in the Yochai. So he brings 2 explanations. One is from a sefer called Kisei Melech. So he says that after Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai passed away, and he was in Gan Eden, he continued to learn and teach in Gan Eden. And of course, Eliyahu Navi was in Gan Eden with him. So Eliyahu Navi would come and reveal the teachings of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, that he would teach it over to Amoraim, to Rabbi Baba Chana. So that's how Rabbi Baba Chana came to say over what Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai had said. The difficulty with that is that I mean, it's not a difficulty. You have to accept that these things are above our definitions of time. And the other explanation, which I think more people prefer, is that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai knows what will be, and he knows that it's going to be a teacher a couple of generations later called Rabbi Baba Chana, so he's going to say over what he's going to say a couple of generations later. Really, it's an academic thing, really, because the Zohar is the Zohar, the Tikunei HaZohar, the Tikunei HaZohar. So those that are interested in this academic discussion will work on that. But let's just take it for on the face value that the Tikunei HaZohar brings what is said. So now let's go a little bit more deeply into this question of the boat that is traveling on, right, and the bird and the continuation. So the boat, just the Shabbat. We remember, we say every Erev Shabbos, right? In Eshes Chayil, we say Haisaka Anyas Socher. So the boat they say it's Knesset Yisrael. So in the Agagta, Rabbi Bar Chana was seeing Knesset Yisrael going through the Yam, the sea, and he saw them doing the mitzvahs and making a yichud, as we learned last week and the previous week. So there's a yichud between the higher world and the lower world. As Knesset Yisrael traveled through time and space on their boat, right? And he then saw this bird. So the neshamas of Yisrael, the places are called tziporim, birds. There's a place where the neshama are called tziporim, birds. A bird is a very, in our terms, a bird is a very special creature, right? Because most animals, we know animals have a nefesh. Everything has a nefesh. The stone has a nefesh. Everything that's created in the world has a nefesh. A nefesh is the life. But the higher than that is the ruach. Man, the essential quality of man comes from the ruach, which is a higher spiritual aspect of man. And higher than that is the neshama. So the nefesh is the simple thing that keeps people alive. The base is not only people, animals, stones, everything else. It's like the lowest, because everything has a spiritual aspect. So it's the lowest aspect, and ruach is higher than that. And I like to think, only so that I can understand it, there's something about ruach, spirit, which it also means wind. The bird to me represents that. Represents ruach, because the bird flies, you know, he flies in the air, which is very high thing. And he sings, the bird sings, he doesn't. I mean, maybe the people say he has to, but singing it it's like a spiritual thing, right? The idea of a bird flying and singing is a bird, and birds give like praise to the Almighty. So that's why the analogy is very nice, that the birds represent the neshamas of Israel. The neshamas of Israel are called birds. So therefore, when he sees this bird, so he sees the neshama of a tzaddik, right? So let's just go back and understand what we're saying. So Rabbi Bar Chana is going on this boat, and it's part of Knesset Yisrael, and he sees the bird. And the water's going to come up to his ankle, so we'll come back to that later on, the water's coming back to his ankle. So now the Tikunei HaZohar are interested in this bird. So we're now going to have a section which is considering what is this bird. So they say, Uman Tzipohach. What's this bird? So we've already, now we're not in this, at this point, whether the bird is the mother, let's put that on the side of the room, because now they want to know, is the bird, we said there were chicks and there were eggs, right? So we want to know, is this bird from the chicks or is the bird from the eggs? Let's leave aside that the egg is laid or not laid, but that's the question which the Tikunei HaZohar asks. Is the bird from the chicks, the efochi, only inen beitzim, or is it from the eggs? So now we're going to explain what the difference is between efochim, chicks, and what the difference is between them and eggs. Efochim could go in pachim. The word efochim is the same root, seems as the word perach, which is a flower, pei resh chet, right? Efochim is the other pei resh chet. and perch is a flower, right? So the quality of a flower is, the Zohar says, is the love inan gama pri. They haven't yet completed their growth. A flower in a tree, in a tree, there's a stage, right? Flowering is a very early stage, and then from the flower will become the beginning of the bud, and then later on will become the fruit. So the flower is an early stage. They want to know if, and we add that the flower goes from below to above. A bird also flies from below to above. So unfortunately, I'm now going to explain this much more detail in the terms of the Kabbalah. So I'm going to give a short, comparatively short description what I understand according to the Meforshim. The first thing that we're going to have to say is that the sea is, which is Yama, Yud Mem Aleph, is Ima. A relation between the word Ima, which is Aleph Yud Mem Aleph, and Yama, which is the sea. So he saw that this bird, which is the neshama of the tzaddik, who does the mitzvahs, and God forbid he doesn't, through his bad deeds, cause a separation from the mother and the sons, the children. But on the contrary, the mother, which is the higher aspect, hovers over the children to bring shefa and sustenance to the children, which we could say is light, right? Or light. So the process is that the light comes from higher sources, and in the word of Atzilus, it will come through the highest source, which is the Ambim, passes through to Abba, and Abba will bring it to Ima, and the Ima will come to bring the light and the shepherd, all the bocha down to the children. This will come through what we call zivug, which is a coupling, a unity of part of the mother. How that comes in at this point, we're not going to have to go into that. But so therefore, they're asking whether this bird which he saw is that bird which comes from the afuchim, which are the chicks, and can explain like this. The mother rests on the bonim, the children, while they're still young, right? And they need to get from the mother their nourishment. They draw nourishment and sustenance from the mother. And they can do that in one of two aspects. The aspect of beitzim, which is called eggs, and the aspect of afukim, which is called chicks. And the difference between the chicks and the eggs is this. There is going to be a unity between there has to be unity between the male aspect and the female aspect, because that's how children are born, right? And that's how the shellet goes down. How things go down is through a unity in the higher world, as there is in our world, a unity between mother and father and mother, I should say, really brings the child. So also in the low, as we see it in the devolution from the higher world to the lower world, there has a unity between father and mother. That can be either in a higher place or it can be in a lower place. It's going to affect whether they're going to be chicks or they're going to be eggs. If there's a unity in the higher world, it's going to produce chicks. And if the unity, the zivug, is in the lower world, it's going to produce eggs. That's how the Meforshim explain. So he says like this. He says that we have a unity between the male and the female aspect. If it's in the higher world, then the two of them are equal in their standing. And then that's like the unity of Abba and Lima in the higher world, they're equal. And as they're equal in their unity, so then they come from above to below, and then they're called chicks. Because what are chicks? Chicks, he says, have wings to go up, but if the unity is higher, so then they have chicks, so they have wings which they can go up. Of course, they're not yet complete; they're only chicks, but nevertheless, they're able to get up a little bit. They come up a little. So when they come back up, so the chicks can now fly up. So then they're going to bring the light back up. They're going to come back up to the high level. And that's the quality of chicks. And even though they're very, very small, they can go up again. But if the ziv of the unity, the connection between the father and mother is low, so then the chicks are not even chicks, they only have eggs. The eggs don't have wings at all, they can't go up at all anyway, they're just at the bottom. So they're not able to come back up and bring the light back up again. It's very important in the whole construct that the light will come down and then the light goes back up again. There's a process of the light going down and then it comes back up again and then it comes down again. It's like a whole renewal process, it's renewal. So if we're going to say that the bird comes from that quality of chicks, so it's higher and it has a higher level, it's a higher nature. Things, or the lower world is called eggs. So that was the question that the Zohar, the Tikunei HaZohar, Rebbe Shimon, they asked that Rabbi Chana saw, and he saw the bird. Is the bird come from that aspect of chicks that can fly up again, or is it just the aspect of eggs which stay below? So that's what it's. Yeah, that's what we say. Afuchim, because are like fachim, flowers. They haven't completed their fruit, and they can go from below to above. That's like the process of a chick goes up. Or perhaps they are from the eggs. It says the 6, which are from above to below, because they haven't yet. Why do they say 6? So I have to explain a little bit, because in the Sfirot we know that there are the 3 higher Sfirot, right? And then we have the 6 main Sfirot in the body, so to speak, in the analogy to a man. We keep saying this. We have Vak, which is 6, which is the right arm, the left arm, the body, the right leg, and the left leg. And the male organ, that's like the central aspect in all the construct, because when we try to consider the higher worlds, we have an analogy of a man. I say analogy, I don't want to get into the whole Platonic question of whether that's man and maybe that's like a little aspect of man, or whether that's only a marshal or simile. We don't need to discuss that now, really. But in the higher world, we have this aspect of, say, the aspect called a man. It uses the notion of man. So the 6 is like, it doesn't have the 3 highest spheres. The 3 highest spheres are called the Shlosha Rishonim. That's where the milk and the brains are. That's where it's above, so to speak, the body. And And so if they're like the eggs, then they're like these 6 lower aspects in like the body of the construct. So it says maybe if they're from the lower thing, which is the eggs. So then when we burn shit the in me'ila latata, so there comes from above to below. So going back from below to above is it's higher really than above to below. Because above to below is an earlier stage, and it doesn't yet have the arousement of below is very important, very fundamental. We have question. It's the change. We may have to make a tick that way. I'm moving around, but we have to understand these things. That the function of man in the world, we've said before, is to finish off the world, right? The Almighty on the 6 days of creation did 99% of what he had to do, and he left 1% for man. So now we didn't do it properly, we're in the state we are, we have to continue to finish the job. So we see whenever we learn about Mitzrayim, and we were learning today in the Novi, we see that the children of Israel have to cry out to Hashem, right? We have to cry to Hashem. That's called Hitavusalamat. We have to wake up. For in order for the Almighty to bring down the Shefa and save us, we have to wake up. It means he'd give us a little nudge, to help us wake up. But we have to wake up. So coming from below, going above, is a very important aspect. So that's a higher aspect, and coming from above to below is a preliminary part. That's how the Almighty starts off. He can't start off anything below. He comes from above to below, and then the process, that's called Or Chozer, the Almighty goes back. So now, he says, so the Afrochim the chicks are the aspect which go from below to above. And the Beitzim come from the side of the lower Imo Tata, which is the lower mother. The lower mother, remember, Imo is the female aspect, and the lower aspect of that in the Parsufik is Malchus, or the Nukva, not higher up than Imo. And they're the lower aspect, and whereas now we move a little bit, and the Afukim are from the side of the Tzaddik, from below to above. So now the Tikunei moves a little bit, and now says that this bird was from these Afuchim, and it seems now to move a little bit from the female to the male, and his name is Tzaddik. It says Tzaddik Shumei. Now Tzaddik is a whole different thing. Tzaddik is Yesod. Tzaddik is called. The tzaddik, the righteous man, is the yesod, right? We don't have the Yosef as a tzaddik. And Yosef is the yesod. And the yesod is a central aspect. It's no longer female is on the left side and male is on the right side, and yesod is central. Because the ava, the male organ, is the central. And that's the central pillar, which is now we're going to say that tzaddik is the yesod, the foundation of the world. So now the bird, he now says this was a tzaddik, the bird he saw. Amuda chada me'ara adrakia, one pillar which goes from the earth until the rakia, the firmament above. So now we're going to say that the bird that he saw was the central pillar, which goes from down to above. It's like the central pillar that moves from below up to the heavens. And the water which reached up to his legs, that's called Netzach and Hod, because Netzach and Hod, which is the right leg and the left leg, surround and enclose the Yesod, right? In the construct of the man. And now he says, and Ima Ila, the higher mother, she is the sea. She is Pashet Lechamishim train that spreads to 50 gates, Ad Kasolea Dahuhu, until the legs of this bird. So you have to understand a little, try to understand what we say now. So let's look a little bit at the report. So I want to read a little bit of what he says. The tzaddik of the door, that in every generation there is one righteous, there is, I'll say many righteous men, but there is one special righteous man in the generation, and he's called the Amud, the pillar. And he's called Tzaddik Yosef Olam. Tzaddik is the foundation of the world. Okay? And here we can see the higher mother is Bina, right? In the Sfirot, we have Keter, which is in relating to the Partsufim, is Erech Ampim, is hidden, the higher hidden aspect. Then we have Chochmah, which is the higher male aspect, which is also hidden. It's wisdom. When we say it's undifferentiated, I always like to quote Rabbi Yakov, which means I think that's above language. You can't talk about it because it's above language. You can't talk about something without language.
Non-verbalized thought.
So there's no language, so you can't talk about it because you need language to talk about something. Well, I
verbalized.
Or verbalized language.
It appears here as the clear sun. That flows through it. Maybe it's a picture. According to Rabbi Kaplan, it's like a fused collection of all the wisdom.
Undifferentiated.
It's there, but it's not distinction. It's still called one, believe it or not. It's one step down from the Ein Sof, but it still has the quality of the Ein Sof. It has no chomer. It's the co-op, it's not the co-op.
Oh, right.
But it's the first level. It doesn't have number. It's the first beginning of a vibration. It doesn't have any form of shape.
It doesn't have form or shape. It's there. We don't yet have language comes in relation.
That's Bina.
That's Bina. Bina is language, because Bina comes from language words.
There's no access to thought. Only through Bina. If you express up, then you're really in Bina. You're not.
Because okay. So Bina comes from the language word of binyan, which means to build, and it comes from Bina to distinguish and distinguishing. Because
the Sefer Yeshira called Bina, the root of Bina is not based on
Right. Which is separate between. But that's I would say that's the same thing. In order to build, you have to have separate parts, right? You can't build. Building means you take a brick and you take cement and you put them together, things, right? So that's already separation. So that's called Bina. That's the female aspect, and there are 50 gates. You know that there are 50 gates of Bina. Okay. So
Chachma cannot be accessed. No. Which access you give me? It's there though. It's not there. I look at it as all the potential wisdom that is ever going to be needed to allow the creator to express itself in all aspects is infused into a unity that is inseparable from its parts. It's all there. Potential.
So he says this high Ima is the Yama, is the sea. So Yam is in geometry is 50 Yudman, it's 50. So that also is a hint, right? It's called the Yam. It's like the sea because it has 50. There are 50 gates of Bina, 50 aspects of Bina, and the Tikkun says the Ima Ila, this higher Ima. I'll answer you a little bit. You see, as we have this Shalshelet, we have this evolution, that which is higher is contained in that which is lower, right? When the thing comes from above, it comes below, it's contained in that which is below. So Chokhmah is contained within being. So therefore, as Rabbi Yakov says, in order to come to Chokhmah, we have to go through Bina because it's contained within. So Bina, here we say it pashet, which means it spreads out. It falls out to 50 gates. And that's why it's called a yam, sea, because the sea is also 50, it means 50. And until it comes to the legs of this bird, which is the Hodenetzach, it spreads down. So now, when we're talking about 50, so now we're going to, as is the way of the Zohar, we're going to make a parallel and move on. So he says, Kagavna there in this way, Yud, which is 10, and Hay is 5, right? Yud is 10 and Hay is 5. So although it doesn't specifically say it here, we know that in the divine name of Yud K Vav K, which is revealed in the world of Atzilus, so the Yud K is revealed in the higher aspect, the pair of mother, Abba and Ima, father and mother, and the second Vav is revealed further down. So now we have the Yud, which is of the divine name, which is related to Abba, is enclosed in Ima, which is the Hay. So Yud is 10, and Hay is 5, so 10 5s are 50, right? That's what it says, Kigana de Yudi hu Esa, and Hay is Chumash, Esa Zimnin Hay, 10 times 5 is 50. So we say Esa b'chol Sfira, Ne'ilan Chamesh Michesed Ad. And now it says there was 10 in these five spheres. Now we're going to go back to these lower 5 spheres, which are 5 of the 6, which is Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, and Hod. So those 5 spheres, each sphere has 10 spheres within it because it's all a matrix. So everything has all everything else. So these 5 spheres, which are the roof, the body, without Yesod, I'm going to explain about Yesod in a moment. So there's 5, each have 10, so that's 50. And Yesod takes them all. The nature of the Yesod is that it contains everything which is above it, right? So that's what it's a foundation. So it contains everything which is above it, and it takes everything kulahu, and it's called kol. Kol means everything, right? So kol is also 50. 20 and 30 is also 50. So therefore the Yesod also contains all the 50 from the 5 highest spheres which are above it, of which one has 10. So they come down into Yesod, and that all has 50. And therefore, Kosea, Latata, Yam. Okay, so now it adds another little thing which we have to explain. We can, it says, for Kosea, Latata, Yam Melech, Kisejin. And the lower throne is called the Yam Melech, which is the throne of Din, of judgment. There's a higher throne and a lower throne. Kisei Elyon, and a lower throne which is called here, they call it the Yam, which is the sea, because again the Yam we're talking in a general sense. The Yam which represents 50 Here it represents the lower throne, which is Din. Din is also the female aspect. And the lower aspect, Chesed, is a higher aspect of Din. Right? We know that Chesed is higher than Din. The male aspect is like Abba comes down to Ima, and then when Ima comes down lower, the lower aspect, the higher aspect is Bina, and the lower aspect when he comes down to Malchus, which is Din. Okay, so I wanted to say a little bit here. It says, he says like this. Again, it's just really giving another aspect of this aspect of the 50 gates of Shalom, of Bina, when they come down, further down, so then that becomes the throne of Din, the seat of Din. Because we know that the interface between the lower worlds and the higher world, the lowest aspect of the higher world, which is Malchus of the Nukva, and the highest aspect of the lower world is called the Kisei Kavod, the throne of Lord. So the throne is really like the interface between the higher world and the lower world. And that's where Din is law, right? Din means law and order. That's how the Almighty says, Bereshit bara Elokim. And in the beginning, you could say he created Elokim, or Elokim created. But the world that we live in, the lower worlds, are made of Din and order. And that comes from the lower throne, which is where Din comes into this. Okay. So, as I said before when we started, the Tikunei really a pace, so it's throwing out lots of these ideas. And as we go on, we shall try to be able to understand more deeply. We're just giving like little notes, so we'll understand a little bit more as we go through. So it says, "Oh, ihu tefo delay ihu metatra." So now this word, now we change the name from the tzipor to calling it oaf. So oaf, I think, is also a bird. I think it's a bit of a lower bird. It's not such a high bird as the tzipor. But this oaf, which is a bird, is Metatron. So Metatron, we will come across as we continue our journey on the sea. The Metatron is called Sar Hapnim. The minister, internal minister. Sar Hapnim means the internal minister, right? I don't know what you call him in America. He runs the internal government. He runs the thing. It's like it's the government officer. So Metatron is a very high angel, who is in charge of running the world. And his basic, or the lower world, his basic job is that he runs the world, right? So now they said this bird is now, when it becomes from a tzipor to an oak, we're going to call him Metatron. And there's a pasuk which in Kohelet which says, and on this bird, on him, Metatron, it said, Ki opa shemayim yolich es hakol. The pasuk in Kohelet, it says, the bird of the heavens takes the voice. What does that mean? It says, Kol, first of all, what's a Kol? Kol de Kriyat Shema. That's the Kol of Kriyat Shema. We have Kol, and we have Dibur. Kol is, how we translate it? Sound. They could call it voice, I suppose. And Dibur is speech, right? When we pray to the Almighty, we say Shema Kolenu, Shema Kolenu, hear our call. We don't say hear our dibur, hear our speech, right? Although we are, dibur, it really means words, right? And call, it's a sound. Sound can be expressed in words much higher. I mean, someone cries, it comes from the soul, but when you speak, it's a much higher expression, right? Than just grunting, but at the same time, perhaps what the speech does is it takes the call and it gives it like a content. But the call is also very high. We say, Shema Kolenu, hear our call. So how does the Almighty get to hear our call? Well, that's one of the jobs of this Metatron. And that's what Shlomo Melech says in Kehelet, that he takes the call of our prayer and he lifts it up to the Shemayim. No, to the Almighty.
No. I meant like the idea that the Chochmah is ideas, or whatever, ideas and words that can't be put into words, where ours is our words, but we can't even articulate how we're feeling. And we're putting it in from our, was the word bina? To our essence of a Chochmah, to where the Metatron can say, well, this is what they had, even though they couldn't say it. You got the idea.
Very interesting. So we'll have to, as we go on, I'm sure we'll spend more time analyzing and talking about the difference between call and speech. But here, it's very interesting what you say, that our speech is also a call. We say Shema Kolenu, hear our call, right? So how does he hear our call? The Almighty, how does the prayer go up? There are other parts of the Zohar. It goes through all these different echolot and palaces, and there's a lovely Zohar with one of the stages it goes through is that there are all these angels with big ears, right? And if it's too loud, they send it back again. You're not allowed to play too loud. But here, Metatron, the angel, takes the call and he takes it up to the Shemayim. And that is the Kalil Shityamed Dechol, the shall explain. Because since he runs the lower world, that really only applies during the 6 days of the regular 6 days of the week. And he says, V'not elahu kol, and he takes this kol, upach ba, and he flies up with it, ad amud de'emsayis, till he gets to the middle pillar. Right? So here we're down here, and we cry out. That's like the coal, and the Metatron comes along and takes our coal, and he picks it up, and he flies with it up until the middle pillar. The Ihu Kol Hashem Alamai. So now the Tikunei are talking about we say on our Shabbos, we talk about this, the Kol Hashem, right? And there's six. If you look in a Siddur, you'll see on the Tehillim, which we say on Erev Shabbos, just before we say the Chadot, Kol Hashem, Kol. So there's six codes there, because that talks about the 6 days, because it's Kol Hashem Alamayim, and the Tikunei say late Mayim El Torah, that's Torah. Tiu Kol Hashem, and then they say Kol Hashem Bahada, Ad Shit Kolin Ihu Shivin Lon Be'ima. So he says there are 6 calls which represent the 6 days of the week. V'hu Shivin Lehem Be'ima, and the 7th one is Ima. So now we're explaining that Al Pasuk says, Ki ofa shemaim yoliches kol ki marihu de dafin natin kol v'salik, that he picks up with his wings the coal, and he brings it up to the king And that's talking about Metatron. But on Shabbos, we don't need that. Shabbos, the kol goes straight up on its own. We don't need the angel to take our kol up to the Shemayim. There's a special on Shabbos, which is the seventh day. It's a special quality of Shabbos, and our kol goes straight up to the Shemayim. And the next section of the Tikkunim will deal with it, a little bit of its aspect of the kol and how it goes up to the Shemayim. We say, Hashem sits beside Tik-Tak. It's talking about speech and how speech goes up to the Shemayim. So we will move a little bit now from what we've been studying to an aspect of kol and speech, and that's Hashem will do. If you look at the Siddur, it talks about the 6 kol. How many kols are in the bracha, in the Sheva brachas, the last bracha? Kol simcha v'kol sason, kol kalav. Let's have a look at this.
I'm more interested in the Mizmor after the kol, this. I guess.
You got it.
Man, you are tough.
So you see,
Frankie over.
You look out.
Excuse me for being.
Oh,
so we have
apologize.
the Arizal writes of many Kabbalistic allusions in this psalm, and even though we're not able to study it, no, that's in Kol Hashem. So that was Kol Hashem, that was Mizmor David. Havul Hashem and Elim, Havul Hashem Kavod V'yo. So it says, Kol Hashem al Hamayim, Kol Hashem B'koach, Kol Hashem B'hada, Kol Hashem Shover Haozim, Kol Hashem Chotzev Lahavos Eish, Kol Hashem Yachil Midbar, Kol Hashem Yecholel Ayalos. So there's 6 things that the voice of the Almighty does. So that we're going to look a little bit next time. I want to look at the Sheva box.
It came up in our lunch. It is the last, which in English, Kol Hashem.
We're going to talk about that next week.
Which in English is frightens the hinds and strips the forest bare. It's extraordinary. His phrasing of it, emphasis of it, is this is the most powerful thing of the world. The power of Hashem, physicality of existence.
Let me just check. Kol Sason, Kol Simcha is 2, Kol Chasan is 3, Kol Kala is 4, Kol Metzahalas Chasanim 5. That's 5, but Kol Metzahalas Chasanim Kupatin, but now in the Simcha. So there,
6.
maybe we'll have 5 or 6. We'll have 6
in this.
Baruch Hashem. So it's a very difficult section we're doing now, but it's whatever little drops we get,